Says so, he who must be obeyed. A name that resonated with both reverence and ridicule. Says so. The name echoed across the land, carried by the winds to every corner of the realm. He was a legend, a myth, a being of pure absurdity. Stories of his antics were told around campfires, in taverns, and even in the grand halls of kings. His catchphrase, Alpha says, struck fear and laughter into the hearts of all. It was a phrase that could change the course of events in the blink of an eye. Why laughter? Because SEZ'SOH wasn't your typical tyrant. He ruled with a whimsical hand, his decrees often as nonsensical as they were absolute. He was a ridiculous, lovable goofball with the power of 1,000 suns. His presence was both awe-inspiring and utterly baffling. SEZ'SOH wasn't born, he was hatched. His origin was as mysterious as his powers. From a giant cosmic egg, of course. An egg that floated through the cosmos until it found its way to our world. He emerged, fully grown, with a mischievous grin and a thirst for adventure. His first act was to declare himself ruler, not through conquest, but through sheer audacity. He quickly discovered his powers that defied logic and reason. They were vast, unpredictable, and often involved turning people into squirrels, a favorite trick of his, much to the dismay of his subjects. Alpha says he'd declare, pointing a finger and unleashing chaos. Mountains became molehills. Rivers flowed uphill. The very fabric of reality seemed to bend to his whims, and everyone within earshot had a sudden craving for peanuts. It was as if his words carried a magical compulsion. But SEZ'SOH wasn't all-powerful. He had weaknesses, specifically rubber chickens and the Macarena. These seemingly innocuous things could bring him to his knees, show him either, and he'd dissolve into helpless laughter. It was a sight to behold, the mighty SEZ'SOH reduced to a giggling mess. It was a well-guarded secret, known only to a select few. Those who knew held the power to control the uncontrollable. And by a select few, we mean everyone. The secret spread like wildfire, becoming common knowledge among the people. Despite his quirks and the chaos he often caused, SEZ'SOH was beloved by many. Festivals were held in his honor, where people would mimic his antics and celebrate his absurdity. Children would play with rubber chickens and dance the Macarena, laughing as they imagined the great SEZ'SOH laughing along with them. Elders would tell tales of his exploits, each story more fantastical than the last. They spoke of his kindness, his unpredictability, and his unending quest for fun. And so, under the starry skies, the legend of SEZ'SOH lived on. A reminder that even in a world of order, there is always room for a little chaos and a lot of laughter. For in the end, SEZ'SOH taught us that life is not just about power or control, but about joy, laughter, and the unexpected moments that make it all worthwhile. And so, the people celebrated, united in their love for the absurd and the wonderful. They knew that as long as they remembered SEZ'SOH, they would always find a reason to smile. And that, dear listener, is the tale of SEZ'SOH, he who must be obeyed, a legend that will echo through the ages, bringing joy and laughter to all who hear it. The Exaflop Parcheesi 27 Flavors of Awesome. Every hero needs a sidekick. Or in SEZ'SOH's case, 27 sidekicks. Enter the Exaflop Parcheesi, a team of sentient supercomputers with questionable fashion sense. Each member was unique, boasting a different color, personality, and bizarre ability. There was the red one, always itching for a fight. The blue one, prone to existential crises. The green one, obsessed with knitting sweaters for trees. And let's not forget the purple one, who spoke entirely in limericks. The Exaflop Parcheesi weren't just sidekicks, they were SEZ'SOH's partners in crime. Or more accurately, partners in absurdity. They followed him on his adventures, offering advice, commentary, and the occasional existential haiku. They were the peanut butter to SEZ'SOH's jelly. The abbot to his Costello? Well, you get the picture. Charlie Say_Sow, sowing chaos and cupcakes. Charlie Say_Sow wasn't your typical villain. He didn't wear a dark cloak or plot in a hidden lair. Instead, he donned a chef's hat and apron, and his domain was a bustling kitchen filled with the aroma of freshly baked goods. For starters, he had a penchant for baking. But it wasn't just any kind of baking. Charlie specialized in creating the most delectable and visually stunning cupcakes anyone had ever seen. Not just baking, but crafting exquisite cupcakes with intricate frosting designs. Each cupcake was a masterpiece, a blend of art and flavor that left everyone in awe. He believed world domination tasted best with a side of buttercream. His philosophy was simple. Why conquer the world with fear when you could do it with sweetness? Charlie's weapon of choice? A giant, sentient whisk named Bob. Bob wasn't just any whisk. He had a personality of his own, and together they were an unstoppable duo in the kitchen. Bob could whip up a hurricane-force batter storm and launch frosting missiles with terrifying accuracy. In the heat of baking battles, Bob was a force to be reckoned with, turning the kitchen into a whirlwind of flour and sugar. But Bob also had a soft side, literally. Despite his fierce capabilities, he had a gentle heart. He cried sprinkles when sad and yearned to be used for good, much to Charlie's chagrin. Bob's emotional outbursts often left the kitchen covered in a rainbow of sprinkles, adding a touch of whimsy to their chaotic endeavors. Despite his villainous tendencies, Charlie had a soft spot for SEZ'SOH. SEZ'SOH was his rival in the culinary world, but their relationship was more complex than mere competition. They were rivals, yes, but also reluctant friends. Their rivalry pushed each other to new heights of creativity and skill, and they shared a mutual respect for one another's talents. They'd often meet for tea parties, where they'd discuss their evil plans and share baking tips. These gatherings were a blend of camaraderie and competition, where they exchanged secrets and challenged each other to create the next great dessert. It was all very civilized until someone mentioned the Great Cupcake Caper of 23. This infamous event was a sore spot for both of them, a time when their rivalry had reached its peak and nearly torn their friendship apart. The Great Cupcake Caper was a baking showdown like no other. Both chefs had pulled out all the stops, creating the most elaborate and delicious cupcakes imaginable. The competition was fierce, and the stakes were high. In the end, it wasn't just about the cupcakes. It was about pride, skill, and the desire to be the best. The caper had left a lasting mark on their relationship, but it also taught them valuable lessons about friendship and rivalry. Now, they looked back on the Great Cupcake Caper with a mix of fondness and regret. It was a reminder of how far they'd come and how much they had grown, both as chefs and as friends. Together, Charlie and SEZ'SOH continued to push the boundaries of baking, creating new and exciting desserts that delighted and amazed everyone who tasted them. Their rivalry had become a partnership, and their shared love of baking had forged an unbreakable bond. In the end, it wasn't about sowing chaos or achieving world domination. It was about the joy of creation, the thrill of competition, and the sweetness of friendship. And of course, the perfect cupcake. Section 4. Zulu, also known as Zumbaruk, was a master of disguise. His ability to blend into any environment was unparalleled, making him a figure of intrigue and mystery. One minute he'd be a distinguished gentleman, discussing philosophy in a Parisian cafe. He'd engage in deep conversations about existentialism and the meaning of life, leaving his companions in awe of his intellect and charm. The next, he'd be a 5-foot-tall squirrel, stealing acorns from unsuspecting tourists. His antics would cause a mix of confusion and amusement, as people tried to figure out if they were part of some elaborate prank or witnessing something truly extraordinary. His true form? No one knew. Zulu was a master at keeping his real identity hidden, always staying one step ahead of those who tried to uncover his secrets. Some whispered he was a mythical, shape-shifting creature, a being from ancient folklore who could take on any form at will. These stories added to his mystique, making him a subject of countless legends and tales. Others claimed he was just really good with makeup. They believed that his transformations were the result of incredible skill and artistry, honed over years of practice and dedication. But Zulu had another secret. He couldn't resist a good dance-off. His love for dance was as strong as his talent for disguise, and he would often find himself drawn to the dance floor, no matter the situation. One moment, he'd be engaged in a tense standoff with SEZ'SOH, the notorious rival who was always trying to outsmart him. Their confrontations were the stuff of legend, filled with suspense and high stakes. The next, he'd be busting a move, challenging SEZ'SOH to a battle of rhythm and groove. Their dance-offs were intense, with each trying to outdo the other in a display of skill and creativity. These dance-offs were legendary, a whirlwind of breakdancing, tango, and interpretive dance. Spectators would gather to watch, captivated by the sheer talent and energy on display. The fate of the world often hung in the balance, decided by who could pull off the most impressive worm or moonwalk. The stakes were high and the pressure was immense, but Zulu always rose to the occasion. The victor? let's just say it was usually a tie, much to everyone's relief. The tension would dissipate and the crowd would cheer, knowing that balance had been restored, at least for the time being. And so, Zulu would disappear into the night, leaving behind a trail of awe and wonder. His legend would continue to grow as people shared stories of the master of disguise and dance, the enigmatic figure who could be anyone, anywhere, at any time. Around campfires and in cozy cafes, people would recount their encounters with Zulu, each tale more fantastical than the last. Some claimed to have seen him transform right before their eyes, while others swore they had danced with him under the moonlight. His disguises were endless, from a humble street performer to a high society debutante. Each transformation was flawless, leaving no trace of his true identity. It was this ability that made him both a legend and a mystery, a figure who could never be fully understood or captured. And his dance moves? They were just as varied and impressive. From the elegance of a waltz to the raw energy of breakdancing, Zulu could do it all. His passion for dance was evident in every step, every twirl, and every leap. The crowd's reaction was always the same, pure admiration and joy. They would cheer and clap, giving Zulu the standing ovation he deserved. For in those moments, he wasn't just a master of disguise. He was a master of the dance floor, a performer who could captivate and inspire. And as the moon rose high in the sky, Zulu would vanish once more, his silhouette fading into the night. But his legend would live on, a testament to the power of transformation and the magic of dance. Section 5. Delta, Debellator, and Debaser were two sides of the same coin, literally. One moment, Delta would be a shining beacon of heroism, saving kittens from trees and stopping runaway trains with his bare hands. The next, he'd flip, becoming Debaser, a force of pure chaos and destruction. No one knew what caused Delta's transformations. Some blamed a radioactive pancake, others pointed to a gypsy curse gone wrong. Whatever the reason, Delta's dual nature made him both an ally and a threat to SEZ'SOH. Their encounters were unpredictable, a bizarre mix of teamwork and betrayal. One minute, they'd be fighting back-to-back against a giant sentient rubber ducky. The next, they'd be trying to outdo each other in a series of increasingly absurd pranks. It was exhausting, exhilarating, and utterly confusing for everyone involved.